Previously on X-Men.
Hey guys, welcome to Podtendo's Previously on X-Men, where we're looking at 3 random Sega games that are X-Men related. It's good times. I'm your co-host Mick. You can find me on every episode with my lovely and talented co-host
Tyson.
Cool. Now we're rocking and we're rolling. This is at the end of the trilogy. Did we save the best for last in both the TV show as well as this video game we're about to talk about today? Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I'm saying definitely with the game.
Okay.
Because this one, no spoilers, but I guess spoilers for what's coming ahead. This one's special to me, so yeah. I love this one.
Nice. So without further ado, dive right into it. Jump. I know last week you just heard another Game Gear. We were pretty high on that one, so the fact that we're saying this is even better, can't wait. So it's X-Men 2, Clone Wars, for the Sega Genesis. It was developed by Head Games. There was no sales data. Not sure how many of this released. It was released May 15th, 2000 or 2995. Wow, it was released really far in the future. I don't know why they sent it back to us. That's weird. How Long to Beat has this game at 3 hours. At eBay, you can get a copy for about $38 to over $100. Way to play. It's only available on the Genesis, which is kind of a crime. I kind of feel like it should be available in more collections or something. It's a good little game.
Yeah, I feel like Disney's got enough money to throw around to try to get one of these things packaged and put together, but they don't really care about gaming all that much. They just outsource that, I guess. So
I guess. I mean, they're really big into making hit movies right now, so go Sonic.
Oh, and you'd think that, well, I was thinking kind of like more X-Men licensing, not Sega licensing. Oh. Sega would happily reproduce any of their old games, but you'd figure that like they've released enough collections that there would be something like this, but nope. Gotta grab the physical copy, everybody.
That's it. And if you have one of those like Sega Minis that play old Genesis games, $38, this game might be worth it. So let's look at the development details though before we get too carried away. So hey, guess what? Also, I have a new chair that doesn't squeak because I was listening to maybe Metal Gear Solid, and I was like, man, it's really annoying that it squeaks so much. So I got a new chair. It's pretty exciting. Look, I'm moving. You don't even hear it.
Nice. Yeah,
So we were going to limit our tangents. The first thing I did was started moving in my chair and bragging about my tangents. So there we go. Good job, us.
Yep.
Woo!
Yep. Nailed it. But you know what? You need a good chair when you're developing a game.
I guess. So X-Men 2 Clone Wars was met with mostly mixed reviews. What? GamePro remarked that the sound effects and music are a mixed bag. Yeah, true. Are criticized the 2-player mode tight scrolling, but praises the large sprites and the special abilities of the playable characters. Electronic Gaming Monthly also complimented the character's special abilities, but criticized the game is a little different from the original X-Men and suffers from a number of weak points, and concluded that the game never seems to come alive despite a few cool, not to mention huge bosses and challenging levels. A reviewer from Next Gen Gaming remarked that the game was more playable, or has more playable characters, more complex moves, more levels, and more gameplay twists in the original X-Men, but still a little more than a rental title. So obviously you have to listen to these professional gamers and listen to them. This game sucks. Don't even play it. It sucks. Don't buy it for your game Sega Genesis Mini. Don't do it.
Well, let's just say, is Next Game still around, or is this EGM Monthly still around? No, it's not. There's a reason they went out of business, because they have bad takes. These are bad takes.
Because they didn't like this game. Suck
it.
Yep,
that's literally why they shut down years later.
I guess.
Yep.
Fair enough. All right, there we go. So let's see if we can dispute this. Why did we have fun with this? Controls of this fun game. So you can pick one of Beast, Cyclops, Gambit, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, or Psylocke, Wolverine, and Magneto. You move with the D-pad. You have 3 buttons. You have a jump attack, a special power, and you can interact with the environment. So Nightcrawler can cling to walls. Wolverine can use his claws to climb on ceilings. Beast can do this awkward sit, not really go anywhere. Magneto can fly. Gambit has a stick. Good times.
Yeah. I feel like this is only missing like a flying character like Storm, but that would have broken all the platforming. So
I mean, they learned from the Game Gear of don't put Rogue in here because she just flies over.
Yeah, and actually, they didn't do proper like pixel alignment, so you can just cheese every boss with her.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. First memories. Look at that. Already at that point in this podcast, flies quickly. I don't know where we got this game. I know we got it in the store. Couldn't tell you which one. And I felt like we kept our Sega at our grandparents. So it was kind of a super fun trip when you went to visit them and you're like, okay, I got to go play some video games. And you'd like pull out your Sega and you'd throw this bad boy on. I have this like weird distinct memory of this being in our grandparents' basement game.
Yep. Yeah. That was like every time we went there and parents were doing boring things or whatever, doing adult stuff.
Oh, why don't we talk about taxes and politics? Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, or watch the news. Oh. As soon as the news came on, we were like, oh, okay, gonna go play Sega.
Just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But this was like this and Sonic, and I think Sonic 3 were all part of the, like, and maybe some columns. Yep. We're all part of that kind of rotational, like, cluster of games. We didn't have many. I think there was an Alien 3 in there or something.
Yep, that's all of them. No, there's another one. You're going to say Bonkers or Tasmania Escape from Mars or something.
Yeah, it's Tasmania. I don't even know where our Bonkers game went. And I don't even care because it sucked. But yeah, this game was like one of my go-tos, and it was so much fun. Like you boot it up for the first time, and all of a sudden you're just dropped in, no cutscenes, no nothing, and that was fun because that was the only time I ever really used the reset button on a console. So it's like, nah, I don't want that character. Nah, I don't want that character.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that character.
Yeah, like
there we go.
We got to do it at some point, but essentially when you boot this game up, it starts. Your character drops into the snow level, and it says go. There's no anything, and you basically have to beat the level before you actually get to the start menu, which is kind of neat. It was definitely jarring as kids, and like Tyson said, you just got thrown a random character, hit reset, it starts with a new random character. So it's kind of neat.
And I seem to remember like us being like when we first got it, that we were like, where's the character select? I don't want this character. Mm-hmm. And we were so confused, and that character dies. And we were like so baffled about what we needed to do. And then I think we were playing Beast or whatever. We didn't want to play as Beast, and we get killed because you're immediately getting shot at from this like little tank.
Well, Beast is pretty strong, but I don't think he has as much health as other characters potentially.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good. There's only one time I actually use him in the game, but that's for cheesing tactics. Sure. Yeah, and I just seemingly remember like us dying and then having to restart the game, and then we were like, wait, why are we a new character? Mm-hmm. And we like,
well, if you die, you go to the character select screen and you pick who you want, and then you restart.
Yeah. But I remember it was one of those things where it was like, why did we just like start up as somebody? But I think we like died once and then restarted it, and then we were somebody else, and we kind of were like, wait, what? And then I think like we had that aha moment before we fully went into a game over screen or went to I seem to remember that for some reason, us being like baffled by like why couldn't we pick somebody.
All right, yeah, and I do remember. What else do I have written down here? It was a lot of fun trying all the characters. Once used cheats to try and complete this game. I don't think I got very far. I don't think I maybe made it past Savage Land. So kind of 5 of the 6 stages. Even with cheats as a kid, I did make it to Avalon a couple times. I could beat the Sentinel Factory, but then those darn boomerang guys are just so tough. So that was kind of my first memories. Wonder how that responds to my current thoughts. So story of this fun game. So the game is based on the current story arc from the comics at the time of development. The plot is narrated through the Cerebro and Professor X communicating with each other. Cerebro detects that a techno-organic alien life form known as the Phalanx have returned and have contaminated the Sentinel manufacturing facility. Learning this, Professor X sends the X-Men, Beast, Psylocke, Gambit, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Cyclops to destroy the Phalanx virus, but discover that the virus has spread to Avalon, home of Exodus and Magneto. Spoiler, but that's how that works. On to the level notes.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that I remember I love the Phalanx Covenant, and maybe that's why like this game and the comic run seem like cemented as like my definitive X-Men experience.
Interesting.
And then the cartoon.
Yeah.
Then I saw the cartoon episode because it's in a later season or something, and I was like, oh, finally they're doing this. This is my favorite like storyline of the X-Men. So I'm pretty sure that's where this came from.
Yeah,
and also the comics had really cool covers.
Yeah, they were kind of like shiny.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So on to the level node. So we've got stage 1. So like we said, you start in the Siberian stage. I think it's Siberia. It's a snow place. We're not sure. Maybe it's in Canada or Alaska or one of those, or Minnesota. One of those snow places. As soon as you boot up the game, you enter this snow-filled level. You can control who you play. You can't control who you play, though a quick reset does let you scroll through the characters. Right? You have to fight some ninjas and robots to clear the stage. I said, what a great way to start a game. I enjoy how you just have to beat the tutorial before the game actually begins. Kind of neat.
Yep. No cheat codes or passcodes or anything to like skip the stages or anything like that in the option menu, but yeah, you just jump right into it, and I think it encourages you to just enjoy the gameplay because it's pretty straightforward, a little bit of platforming, and before you know it, you're smashing through glass and you're on to the next level.
Yeah. So then we're on to stage 2, the Sentinel factories. Now you get the title screen. We see Xavier talking to Cerebro about the Phalanx invasion. You can pick one of 6 characters. I'm not going to read them out again because I've already done that. Inside the factory, you have to fight robots, destroy nodes to open doors, and make your way through a maze to find a boss. There are 3 or 4 stages, depending on how you kind of break it down. The first 2 are mazes, the third is a boss fight, and the fourth is an escape through the second stage. The boss here is Master Mold. He's kind of like a rotating plates below him. They have to destroy, and every time you do, the node kind of shoots out a little laser projectile. He also shoots stuff with his eyes, so you just have to kind of duck, dodge, dip, and dive to avoid everything. Afterwards, you have 120 seconds to escape from the exploding base. Let's see. Notes I have here are, it looks amazing. Love this level. It looks so clean. The green on purple. It's just immaculate. I love it.
Oh, and the sound. Oh, the soundtrack is just like perfect.
Yeah.
Like the Siberia level's got like a swooping sound, so it sounds like the wind's kind of blowing past you. But the Sentinel factory is like got like an upbeat like do 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 do. That's got like little like harmony above it. So good. It's a lot of fun. I love playing as Wolverine in this one because he just like his attacks just destroy everything with one jumping swipe. But
yeah, I discovered that later, and he was kind of my default because his like jump attack was almost faster than walking sometimes, so I just kind of like spam that through most of the levels.
Him and Nightcrawler kind of have some cheesing stuff like that because you can continually kick with Nightcrawler as you're like off a cliff, so you can almost just like skip along. It's pretty cool. Master Mold, I cheesed him with Beast. Okay. If you crouch with Beast and only Beast in the corner, you can essentially like not get hit by all his. He can only hit you with one attack, and it like kind of goes in a pattern of when it shows up. So you just know that like, okay, it's the third time, run to the other side of the room. Okay, now I'm back to like swiping at the thing. Cool. It was really easy actually.
Nice. So yeah, I beat it with Gambit without much issue. So that's nice. But then we escape. We can pick all our characters. I guess quickly run through the characters quick. So Beast is, kind of strong. He has a ground pound attack. I don't know if his health just didn't seem like it was there. Like I always seemed, especially when I read that first level, he took so much damage. Gambit, Cyclops both have projectile attacks. Gambit does have a range attack with his bow staff. Psylocke has a sword and like kind of a psionic blade that she can shoot out, but not great. Wolverine jumps, has kind of like a jumping lunge attack, and Nightcrawler teleports. Yep.
And does like I think everyone can double jump, maybe except for Nightcrawler. Yeah. No, I think he can.
Okay.
Anyways, I just they all play pretty similar. Yeah. I mean, just kind of you could beat this game with any characters, but there's definitely some cheesy characters that are a lot easier.
Well, which is nice that they're all,
he regains health, so
it's nice that they're all balanced too, right? Versus saying like the Game Gear game, we just had like Psylocke and Nightcrawler were absolutely just useless.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think we have that.
Just play as Rogue.
Yeah, and it's balanced here for the most part, right? Okay, so we're on to Avalon. So there's 5 stages here. The first, you fight gun guys, guns, and a flying guy who shoots at you. So a lot of shooting. The second one sees you introducing a boomerang guys that kind of hold this little stick, and they're only vulnerable when they throw the stick. Very similar to, I think, Castlevania enemies, something like that. And then the ends with a boss fight against Yavits. All right, he's one of the acolytes of Apocalypse, or acolytes of Magneto, sorry. The third sees us falling down kind of like a Mega Man-esque anti-gravity corridor, avoiding little laser beams. And the fourth, we have to fight Exodus. The fifth, however, is a boss fight with Magneto, and we have to kind of sort of fight Magneto. You have to avoid his attacks and move along a hallway, and then he gets sucked into this, like, vortex. Neat.
Yeah. This level always kind of give me troubles as a kid.
Oh yeah.
I think this is the one time where I like to use Nightcrawler because he can kind of skip some awkward jumping moments. Okay. But as soon as you can choose get to the like falling stage, I just choose Wolverine because his ability to regain health is so nice. I think if you don't even need to actually like move. You could just literally tank all the damage and still like, because if you fall down the one side or whatever, you're just like, I remember always dying because I would always choose the wrong way. Like I would be exact. The way I went would always be the same way as the laser beams. And it's like, man, goodness, I just suck at this. And I was like, if I just did the opposite of what I did, I would never take any damage. But
interesting. And I guess Wolverine, you could sit. There's no time limit, so in theory, you could regenerate your health and then hit the switch and then fall down to the next area. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So here, I only made it to the second stage as a kid once without cheating. Wasn't a big fan of the Mega Man floating down levels. I think I've had Gambit, though, and I found that if you hit the switch quick, it would just destroy all the enemies on little platforms. So that was kind of an easy way to kind of avoid those little confrontations. I did like the Exodus boss fight. Didn't really like the Magneto boss fight.
Yeah, I don't really like the whole Exodus and Acolytes characters. They're all kind of just lame 90s blue and red big shoulder pads, and it's like, yeah. And I get it, like, oh, Exodus is almost like I kind of remember from the comics. I feel like he's like the really religious guy that betrays Magneto, or from the cartoon. But he's just, he's kind of lame. He's kind of just like a lame character. But you're like, why is he in this game? Could do anybody else. But then we get onto the Magneto fight, and you just don't really have to even fight him. You just kind of just make him shoot his energy beams, and it will like take apart all the walls, part of the wall, and then as soon as you get to that next room, it just sucks him in, and then he's no longer brainwashed, or maybe he becomes brainwashed.
I don't think he was brainwashed. I think he was just trying to. He didn't know the Phalanx had taken over all of his people, and they were all clones of everyone, and he thought we were just attacking for no reason, and somehow going into the vortex, he's like, oh, I see, we're friends. I don't know. That was my read. It was strange, yeah.
Could be. That's the one issue about this game, is the story's kind of like not there.
So now that we have Magneto, though, we've saved him, we find out that it looks like the Phalanx is trying to take over Apocalypse's computer, which is obviously a big deal because he has a very strong PC. He's got a big rig going on there. So there are 3 stages here. The first one, you have to climb up a pyramid. You have to fall down a lot because it sucks. Maybe Magneto would have been better to use. I don't know. At the top, we have to fight Tusk, who's been throwing rocks at us the whole time, which knock you down these little pits, which is really annoying. And inside the pyramid, you fight little rolly guys, and they're big spike pillars, very similar to you'd see in like a Sonic game. The boss here is Apocalypse, and he throws bombs out. You have to, the little blue bombs destroy in the middle of the screen to damage his computer. And eventually he drops down and you attack him. And then finally a little platform jumps and you can escape because you saved the computer. I hated climbing up the pyramid. Not fun. I tried playing as Psylocke. I was like, I should give everyone a chance. She sucks. And I do love his futuristic computer. So it's this big room. There's a big spinning floor. There's like a big machine in the middle, and that's supposed to be his computer. And I love when like 90s was like, this is what the future looks like. Look at this spinning discs.
Yeah, and flashing lights. That makes it fancy.
Oh yeah.
So this one, there's a cheesy jump that you can kind of do. If you do it, you can either do it with a Nightcrawler, and you can do it with Psylocke, but it's really frustrating to do with Psylocke. And like there's like kind of a platform hidden just above your head, or just above the screen. And if you jump and you time your double jump just correctly, I think you can like get up there. But she just wants to do that spin attack jump. She loves it. That's her favorite thing in the entire world to do, and it just kills all her momentum. But if you get to the top with Psylocke, the easiest thing to do is you get like under the right pillar and you just attack up, aim, press up, and attack up. And Tusk will run back and forth, and every time he just runs above where she's slinging. Her sword's just tall enough to take out his foot, and you can just cheese him like that. It's the easiest boss in the game.
I had way more trouble platforming than I did with like Tusk or something like that.
That's the actual that's the hard part. And then this just reminds me of Turtles in Time.
Well, that's what I mean. Like Mode 7, and like I think DVDs and like CDs must have been invented, and people were like blown away with this technology, these spinning discs. And like, that's where computers are going. Computers are just going to be big spinning discs in the future, right? Like they've done it. It's a record, but it's small. And I kind of feel like that's what we were seeing here. But yeah, Turtles in Time, a lot of cartoons with just like spinning things. So.
Oh yeah. But awesome. Always nice to have an apocalypse fight. This one's got like a little bit of stages to it and
sort of some
good music. Yeah. So it kind of feels. Like, it's nice that you fight Magneto and then Apocalypse. Like that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's done, right? You got to fight. Those are like the final. But just like X-Men 93, the first Genesis game, it goes on. You know, you fight Apocalypse. You didn't fight a bunch of clones of yourself right before, so at least they changed that up a little bit, right? Like it wasn't a complete rehash. So we head into the Savage Land here. So we got 4 stages. The first see you in a jungle, and you have to try and navigate a maze. The next 2 see you inside a structure, and you're chased by a green toxic water. And if you fall down in it, it just drains your health. Everything's super blurry. You hate your life. The boss here is Brainchild. First he's on a little ship. Then he's a little man. And then finally he's a weird like Phalanx monster that has some like a sentinel head. Yeah. So
yeah, this is just getting weird. I feel like they're just, this is a padding at level. And I mean, I get that they wanted to throw Savage Land in here, and they couldn't throw it as the first level like they did in the first game. So they just squeezed it in when they could.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this one's my least favorite level, I think. Mm-hmm. And I could see where we got to here as a kid, and we're just like, well, I'm done with this game. I never want to play it again. Please let me play anything else. Hey, Sonic. Good.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've never got past the green rising water, but definitely helped with the anxiety a little bit. You'd fall down. The jumps were really annoying. There was one part where there was a certain jump and these little green bubbles would knock you back, and like the enemy had this super. It was just annoying. I fell down multiple times. Really, really annoying. And the second stage, there's something I absolutely hate. And one of the worst things about Sega platforming games is they have these, like, it looks like you're lost. You're going along, and all of a sudden you get to this point where you have nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. And what you have to do is press down on a platform and then jump, and you drop down below it. At no point did you teach me how to do this game. At no point. We're in stage 5 of a 6-stage game, and you're asking me to do this weird mechanic that I'm like, why did I not learn this before? And they do that so often, and it mucks things up. I hate it. It's one of my absolute least favorite things in gaming. So when I ran to that point where I was stuck in one of the jungle stages, and I was like, where do I go? And then I got to a branch, press down, and like to carry on. And I was like, that's dumb. I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's one of those parts in gaming where you're just like, this is bad game design. This is what bad game design just is.
It like reminds me of all these Sega games that people are like, oh, they're great. Like Earthworm Jim has them. Tasmania, like we were talking about, has them. There's a couple Super Nintendo games, right? Like this is an example. The Jungle Book, Aladdin. I feel like all those games have these little stupid bullshit sections, and I can't stand it. It's one of my least favorite things. When I hit it, I was like, all right, let's keep going. But like, why do you have to make a maze that has no exit? Or teach me, show me, give me a reward. Like, show me, like, oh, look at all these great things. Look, below us, right? Like, you can get all these health. And I'm like, hey, great.
Well, and also it doesn't, most drops up until this point have been like, oh, you fall off a cliff, you're dead. Yeah. It's like, so
that's what I mean. But like, the game has to teach you to do that. And it doesn't teach you. And it's bullshit. It's bad game design.
It is. But, like, I mean, it's a Sega game. So things are in here for bullshit reasons, and things have just unnecessary padding. But I don't know, and even I think in this part they still have those bloody nodes that you need to destroy, and you're just like, why do you just throw junk on junk? Like, this is like, I get if it's like kind of like the theme of the level, but you can't just have a hodgepodge of a level and be like, yes, this works.
So the nodes in the Sentinel factory were good though, because the first one you destroy this like taller node, and then it kind of like short circuits a smaller one and opens a door, and you see it. So like later in the level you have to find a node and then like get to a door, or they show you the door is locked, you have to go find, like, great, awesome, but you've taught me how to do that, right? Like you can like draw it out. This one, anyways, that I don't have to go that. So we're on to the final stage 6, the Phalanx Mothership. Oh, so there are 4 stages. The first one is a platforming section where we have to turn a bunch of elevators and jump around. The second one sees us fight off some robots on an elevator, and Deathbird makes a quick appearance. I didn't even realize she was a boss. I was just kind of like chopping at these little robots forever, and then she showed up, and then she died. And the third section sees us floating down some corridors, making our way through a maze with a bunch of brood. And the boss here is the Brood Queen. She chases you until there's a blue wall, then she rams it, which leaves her head vulnerable. You attack her, she dies. And then finally, she kind of chases us to an area where essentially we're in like a big boss rush, and we have to fight 6 clones of the X-Men before the game ends. Oof, man.
Yeah, I love the Brood, so I'm maybe a little biased here, but yeah, this game is a lot of repetitiveness. First section, you probably just use Wolverine to make platforming easy, so you don't have to worry about the nonsense of it.
Yep.
And then like as soon as you have to do any sort of like once you kind of get to the next levels, like just grab Cyclops. I don't use them up very much, but it's like I can just shoot from distance. Yeah, I'm just going to shoot from distance.
Yeah, that's fair. That takes a lot out.
I'll cheat. Yeah, it takes all the stress of like trying to like run back and forth and position yourself. Yeah, but Brood Queen, awesome. This level's not so great, but and I it's a Sega game, so there needs to be a boss rush.
And I'd say one of my only complaint about this final stage is because it is a Sega game and the levels can be so big as you're climbing up the elevators. If you miss a jump, like you fall and you just fall and you fall and you fall and you fall, and there's not really like checkpoints. They don't have them in contained rooms. Like I don't know if it's possible, but you potentially could fall from the top all the way down to the bottom, right? So that part gets a little numb. I was playing on an emulator on my computer. I saved scum a bunch. It's fine. But I mean, like after that, I thought it was interesting, unique, right? The bosses with the clone X-Men were nothing special. The Brood Queen, pretty straightforward, right? I've seen it before. Like she kind of reminded me more of like a Crocomire from Super Metroid or something like that. But like it was fine, not too difficult, right?
Yep. And nothing. I would say like innovative,
no,
but just with a reskin with X-Men, and I'm fine with that for the most part when it's done right. Like, yeah. I think that this level's not super confusing. No. I didn't get lost, but I also really enjoyed like the actual Phalanx environment, yeah. And like I think that this is like a really cool, like everything's kind of like that bio-cybernetic
black and gold kind of weird organism, yeah.
And it's a lot of like reforming and form, and like it's like we got the T-1000 or whatever it was, the liquid one, and we're like blown away by this idea at the time. So must have been the theme in the 90s. I don't know.
I think something like that. They were just kind of getting into the technology. But yeah, I don't know if this level looks as great, but not terrible. However, though, that means we did complete this fun game, fun stuff. So the ending. So after you defeat the 6 clones, the Phalanx become fearful of the X-Men. Magneto threatens to destroy their ship unless they return the mutants and leave Earth forever. On the flight home, Cyclops confronts Magneto regarding his comments and leaves the X-Men questioning how close this battle was and what they'll be willing to sacrifice in the future. There we go.
Yeah, story's kind of leaves a lot to be desired, but you play like I don't know games from on its generation.
I mean it was kind of a comic in an arcade style. Like I think they gave us enough story, and we said, hey, I knew where we were going. We didn't have to walk around the danger room, right? I thought it's probably better than the X-Men Genesis game, and there's an actual story compared to the Game Gear game, right? So that was fine. Yep. The sprite does.
I just like it like starts wall of text.
Yeah,
and it's like.
But like as a kid, you could also play through it, have no idea what the story is, and still enjoy it. And I think that's also neat.
I think that's like, and that's what this is for. It's like, headcanon your own story. We're giving you the structure. Like, honestly, you could just make up your own like little thing. Like, this is the world that it's in.
Well, and there's a bit of a challenging narrative there too, right? Where they realize that Magneto's not their ally anymore now that this confrontation, and he was being a little bit reckless, saying he was going to, sacrifice their lives to destroy the Phalanx if they didn't leave, right? So I don't know. I think there's a lot of more challenging things for adults to take away, right? And I kind of like that in games. It doesn't have to all just be forced down your throat, right, with some modern cutscenes.
Yeah,
so.
And you don't need a handhold.
No.
It's like if you played the game, you don't really need but I don't understand what happened.
Yeah.
You're like, you clearly understand what happened.
Yeah.
Like the Phalanx were in a problem. We teamed up with Magneto and stopped it.
There you go. So
for some reason, Apocalypse was there.
Of course he is. So current thoughts. What are your current thoughts now that you finally completed this game? I don't know if you ever beat it before. It's the first time I ever beat it in my life, though, so that's pretty exciting. I think this is the definitive 2D X-Men experience. Maybe there's a better game out there, but I mean, outside of like an arcade, which I've heard are really good, I think just in terms of like co-op, narrative-driven experiences that have platforming, it looks great. The worlds look great. The character models are absolutely amazing, right? Like Psylocke is just absolutely chiseled. Wolverine, you can see his six-pack, right? There's so much definition in each of the sprite design. It looks amazing, right? They all feel unique. And then, however, it's a Sega game, so the level design leaves a bit to the imagination. And the Rogues Gallery is a bit on the thin side. Like, really? Brainchild? I don't know.
Yeah, and bloody... the Acolytes, like Exodus, you're like, come on, no, give me like Mystique or like some of the Brotherhood show up or something. Like, what are they up to? Show me what like the White Queen's up to and all that kind of good stuff, like Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw. Like, give me these cool characters. I just I love this. This is my favorite game for like X-Men game. Period. I know that the arcade exists and I've played through it once, but that's not what I go to when I want to play an X-Men game. This is kind of it. I just wish that there was more of these. There was supposedly supposed to be a third one, which was going to be like Lady X-Men.
Okay.
And it was supposed to star be an all-girl thing. Like, the guys got captured and now the girls got to step in and save them. So it'll be Jean, Storm, Psylocke, Rogue, all the girls. And I'm like, man, I wish that game came out. But it was supposed to be like, then they moved on away from the Genesis. But yeah, super, like, this one's my favorite. The story is a little bit like thin, but at the same time, like, the gameplay's tight. I've beat this probably 3-4 times now in my life, but there's been many times where I've literally picked it up, played it until I game over it and was like, well, okay, I'm done. Because it's still like a little difficult, and you gotta like know this game in and out to like beat it without taking too much damage. But I think it's a fun experience, and like, yeah, if you're an X-Men fan, you've probably played this game, but if you haven't, definitely go back and check it out.
It seems like a little bit underrated, so I just pulled up quick like best X-Men games, and they're saying X-Men Legends, X-Men Age of Apocalypse, right? What other ones are popping up here? X-Men versus Street Fighter. So lots of kind of more of like fighting games, but if you want an actual more of like narrative, platform-driven co-op game that you can play with two people, I think this should be up there, right? X-Men Game Master Legacy. They're saying that's really impressive. The third Game Gear. Yeah, they're saying is apparently it made this list at 6.
Yeah, well, I don't always trust some lists because I've played like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance top-down isometric adventure games.
Those are good.
They're interesting, but I always get really. It's repetitive.
Oh yeah.
There's not like an interesting world where it's like good music and like different, but like the backgrounds are really important. I find those games you're just kind of like looking at the same thing. You're running around in a street, or you're running down hallways, or into an open area where there's lots of enemies, and then you just button mash, and that's fun and all. But it's like this feels like it has more depth and some strategy, and I just love the world that it creates. And honestly, just staring at the background, like in the second level when you're climbing up to the Sentinel factory, and you see the feet, and then you see the knees, and then you see his groin, and you see his chest, and you see his head. It's like that's awesome. That's cool. Like, that is how this should be done. Whereas I feel like that's just not always the case with some 3D games. Yeah,
but before we leave this game saying, hey, this was a good experience, at least I think it was the best experience we had with these 3 ones. Obviously, maybe look at more games in the future. Who knows? What would you change? What did I say? I would clean up a few areas, a few things in levels, and maybe flesh out the boss list a bit. Left a bit to the imagination. So there you go.
Yeah, I would... Yeah, definitely clean up the story, maybe add more characters, yada yada. I just want more of this game. I wish there was a re-release of the third one, but yeah, I think maybe if you want to just do it, like if you have like 2 months to re-polish this game and you can't really do much, I see you just reorganize the levels. Great Sentinel Factory second, perfect. I would almost kind of want to put put the Apocalypse just before the Mothership.
Yeah, that would make sense. I would say, just do like Savage Land. I think you unfortunately have to go to Avalon third because you want Magneto as a playable character.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'd probably go Savage Land, then Apocalypse, then Phalanx, Mothership. I would also just be like, well, just move Avalon out of the entire thing, and it's fine because I never play as Magneto. I understand why he's there, but it's always he has the biggest sprite, so he is the easiest to take damage, and he's not as nimble as everybody else.
His float is not a fly.
Yeah. So I think swap Apocalypse, Savage Land, swap those two. Maybe don't use Brainchild. Maybe be Sabretooth, but he's all covered in Phalanx or something. There's other characters.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
That'd be my quick change.
All right, sweet. So that is it for the game. But previously on X-Men does not consist of just us talking about a game. We also look at what else is going on. So previously on X-Men, the segment, that's what the whole series became called. So there you go. Good marketing. So we're going to look at the comics, then an animated series, and get out of here. So on the comics run, so in July 1995, X-Men, second series, number 2042, Heaven Can Wait. So Exodus and the Acolytes, have brought a mysterious unconscious creature aboard Avalon, which not everyone trusts. It soon kills Millen and Rusty Collins before waking up and breaking out of its containment field. This creature, the Age of Apocalypse's Holocaust, engages Exodus in battle, tearing Avalon apart. Vogue flees to Earth, accidentally teleporting Cyclops and Phoenix back to the station. Meanwhile, Xavier and Storm hear news of a massacre by mutants from Archangel. Rogue, channeling Gambit, tries her hand at as a thief, but is halted by Iceman. Wow, there's a lot going on there. We have Exodus, we have some Age of Apocalypse tie-ins. Great stuff. There you go, Exodus, one of the most popular X-Men ever.
Yeah, it's interesting he gets top billing. So you're clearly trying to push him as a character. So
sure.
But that happens. A writer will kind of take a shine to certain characters. That's why Psylocke and Gambit became prominent figures because Jim Lee was a huge fan and drawing them. So he was they're just gonna be standing in the background.
Cool.
And so that's just how they got their huge push. But it's interesting. There's lots of different stuff going on. Obviously Rogue is off doing her own thing. Cyclops and I guess Jean Grey or Phoenix are hanging out, and then Xavier and Storm are trying to hold down the fort. There's all sorts of there's clearly divides going on and stuff. So it's pretty cool. I love these old X-Men. I think that they have a lot more fresh ideas, even though they're kind of not doing anything special than some of the modern ones where, I'll just leave it like that.
All right, sweet. Yeah, so that's that. So then animated series. Last thing we're going to do, the X-Men TAS animated series. We're going to do a change-up. So technically, it's probably pretty close to, I think we're supposed to watch Season 4, Episode 8, Nightcrawler, which isn't that if you look at the Disney Plus, which is different on the DVDs. I'm not really sure what the actual order is of the cartoons anyways. And I was like, which is intro, one of my favorite characters. And I was like, neat. However, Episode 9 was One Man's Worth Part 1, which is the third iteration of Bishop. It's the time travel trilogy that ran across this, and I was like, it'd be a shame not to look specifically at this, right? We're doing ourselves a disservice by not finishing up Bishop, because then we kind of hit one on each game, which I thought was super neat. So there you go. So One Man's Worth Part 1. We're not going to see the conclusion this time. I wonder how it's going to play out. So scene by scene, we start off seeing Bishop in the past, May 11th, 1959, fighting Nimrod and Professor X, exploding. We then jump to the future, and we see that Bishop and Shard are getting intel about stopping the assassination of Professor X and getting the X-Men's help. Anything interesting there? Just kind of standard time travel?
Yeah. Keeps it. I love the story structure where it sets up what you're going to be expecting. Obviously, we know Professor X is in danger, and there's this unstoppable monster named Nimrod that's gonna kill him. So it's up to Bishop to stop him. And I like that he's still meddling. I just love that he's just
It doesn't really fit, because if you watch the last time we saw him, Forge was saying, he's like, oh, I stopped the virus. And he's like, virus? I'll tell you about some other time. And now they're into this story, so obviously some stuff happens in the past. Time travelers. Crazy. Flash forward, though. We go to present day. We see Wolverine, Storm, and Xavier just hanging out in the garden until a time vortex alters the present to a war-torn landscape. Xavier disappears, and Wolverine and Storm have become an item. The duo are under attack from some robots. Beast shows up. Cyclops/Angel swoops in and stuns one of them, but is hurt and is rescued by a cool-looking Magneto. We were able to fight off the robots, and they have to retreat when some superhumans or Avengers show up. So maybe the best part of the animated series ever?
Yeah. This is like the flash forward in the future bits. It's like are always super cool because it gets you like mind racing and but then the superhumans show up and you're like, man, cool, this is awesome. I like, man, like you can clearly see that they could have set up a whole universe, because I know the Spider-Man and the X-Men like crossover a couple times, and there's a few other characters like Fantastic Four. It's like so cool. It's like I love that there's this cross universe,
but it's like a
and
week.
It wasn't. It's like a super but
week.
It's so not
like it after the fact. They're like, oh, that yellow guy, Daredevil. The big guy was Giant Man and Wasp, and like Captain America was like a purple man with a shield. And I was like, I see.
Yeah, they're kind of like, they ended up not sticking the landing, but I love the idea, and I love that like. Even before the MCU was a thing, it's like it was totally a thing. It's always been a thing. There's just this cool like little crossover world.
Big tie-ins and stuff. And I mean, I don't know. It's
not overdone. It's like done with subtlety. It's like here's this like 30-second scene that's going to get your mind racing, and even podcasts are going to talk about it 20 years down.
Oh, and I hate the ambiguity of some of the animations and some of the character designs, because it's I don't know. It feels almost cheat. And at this level, also the Avengers. Everyone knows who the Avengers are today. Whenever this came out, what year? When are we looking at? Like something 2095. So I mean, at that point, no one knew about the Avengers. Avengers were like C-level comic book characters. So the fact they just like threw them in as cameos, I guess, is kind of cute. If they're like Iron Man, most people are like, I don't know who Iron Man is. He sounds stupid. So it's kind of a sign of the time. So yeah, I loved kind of the allegory, the allusion, the nod to Age of Apocalypse, which as a kid was always seemed like the super epic story, right? It was this alternate timeline with like tougher looking characters. I've recently kind of gone back and like my adult life looked at the storyline, and I was like, that was very ambitious. That was very neat. So they had a little bit of a tie-in here. It was kind of cool. All right, so after this epicness, I still don't understand who that character was. Was he Cyclops? Was he Angel? He was Cyclops, but with angel wings. But then there's a Dr. Summers mentioned in like 2 seconds. Yeah,
and he looks like a beast mixing, kind of. Yeah, it's weird. I
don't know who that is. Okay, so then they reconvene at a medical facility. We see Gambit being treated by Jean, and we hear someone call for Dr. Summers. I'm guessing Cyclops, sure. And then at this point, Bishop and Shard show up to recruit Wolverine and Storm to help them out in the past.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still just like thinking about all those other characters, and like they really just are knockoff characters.
Oh, 100%. Like it's not done well. You're like, oh, I'm gonna go watch this and see it's not Captain America. It's a guy in a purple suit with a shield, and I'm like, I guess.
And like a person that grows big and just has random colors on their suit. Like, okay.
Yeah, like very weird off-branded. I mean, I guess in a war they wouldn't be branded, like you wouldn't be wearing American flags on. I don't know.
Yep. But it's kind of like, I guess this is where they end up deciding that they have to go back into the past, and you can kind of see that a bunch of people are going to have to.
Well, he gives an ultimatum. He says, Bishop comes and says, this is what it's supposed to be like. There's a man named Xavier we have to save. He fixes all this. There's no war. Storm then says, well, we have to do it. We may not be together. Right, but this world is so horrible. Let's stop it at all costs, right? Even if it sacrifices our love, and you kind of see this nice relationship between Storm and Wolverine, and they decide to go into the past.
Yep, and you see there's a couple, and I like that it's like these characters admit that like they know that in time travel, like we may have to give up what we have today because we're going to change the past. So we need to like say our goodbyes. And like Wolverine and Storm have this cute little moment. and they've always kind of been sort of in a weird way. Like sometimes they're a thing, sometimes they're not a thing, and you're like, it's interesting because I always thought that they're just like a very good couple because they're very like they agree on a lot of things, but a lot of times like Wolverine takes it too far, and Storm's like, no, you need to do things right. And need to do it in the right like way, and Wolverine will like always end up like kind of relenting. So it was cool. Right. I liked their dynamic.
Very cool. And then finally, at some point, there's like a timeline. So the group follows Fitzroy. He's a time traveling mutant set by Master Mold in the future to do this assassination attempt on Xavier to kind of ratify the future for the Sentinels and kind of the anti-mutant cause. And they are attacked when they travel back and follow Fitzroy by Nimrod. They face some racism, that's the scariest part of the past, and are unsuccessfully reversing the outcomes from the beginning of the episode. So Xavier dies. I wonder if they'll be able to stop it in the next one. I didn't watch the next episode. Maybe I'll have to watch it after this podcast, but not really sure what the conclusion was.
Yeah, and Fitzroy and his weird little buddy are constantly hanging around, and you're like, you guys are kind of useless. Yeah. Literally, Nimrod's doing all the heavy lifting, but and I think that like all the X-Men fight Nimrod, and just like it just shows how powerful it is that they can't just engage him, even though these characters have seen lots of battles, and they look like they're still in their physical.
Yeah,
prime.
But I feel like they definitely destroy him and fight him in one of the other time travel episodes, like Days of Future Past.
Oh,
this isn't the first
literally
time
think
he's
like
back.
in the no, I think in the next episode they kind of like go back and do it again, and they just destroy him this time. They're like, so why didn't you do that in the first time? And I remember that I was kind of like being a big plot hole. It's like, what's different this time than last time?
Yeah. All right. So that is the layout of the episode, scene by scene. You're all caught up. Maybe go watch it. Anyways, so we review this fun episode. So favorite part. What is your favorite part of this? I said seeing the Age of Apocalypse part of this episode. I know we had a videotape that had Nightcrawler on it and Weapon X Lies videotape, so the preceding 2 episodes. But imagine if for some reason we had these 2 episodes saved. I feel like it would just like drove us insane. You'd freeze frame. You'd like draw the weird Avengers and stuff. I think it would have been pretty cool. So I just really like I like the Age of Apocalypse. That's one of my favorite times in like the X-Men comics. Tyson, what's your favorite part of this episode?
Yeah, definitely the Age of the Apocalypse world. Okay. It's cool. There's so many different styles. Like Magneto's old and grizzled. There's some weird crossbreed Cyclops Angel. And it's just cool. Like Wolverine's got an awesome suit. Storm's got her mohawk.
Yeah.
For some reason, like Jean is she's a nurse.
Yeah.
Because she's wearing a white hat. And you get to see all the cool characters. Like there's a bunch of Morlocks. There's like some Brotherhood mutants in there, and it's like everybody's united against one cause, and it's kind of like bleak. And I think that part's really well done, and there's robots.
There you go. So what's our most memorable part of this episode? So could it be Storm's mohawk and Wolverine, them being a couple? We get to see kind of like war-torn Apocalypse with this kind of cool beard. We see alternate Beast, Jean, Dr. Summers, that weird Cyclops Angels, maybe the Avengers. What do you think the most memorable part of this episode is?
I'm gonna claim them all and say the character designs of the like after like the Age of Apocalypse kind of designs or the future ones. Their character designs are like just super cool. Like if you saw a freeze frame of like Wolverine and Storm or Magneto or that weird like Cyclops Angel, you'd be like, oh yes, I remember this.
Yeah, it's good.
So
how about what's your least favorite part? So the ambiguity of who these mutants are, right? Who is that Cyclops Angel guy? He's like, it's like the 5th time I mentioned it today. Why are the Avengers all off-colored? Right? I don't know if there was like a copy or like a copyright thing, or they just didn't commit, or they didn't, I don't know. Maybe they like animated it after the fact and then had the voice actors, or they didn't storyboard it correctly and they just kind of let them do whatever they want, right? I mean, that's potentially what happened, but just that lack of creative control and that ambiguity, that's probably my least favorite part of this episode.
Yeah, I think my least favorite part is when they actually go back into the past and they're like talking to Xavier, and he's like, I'm still a little jerk, and I'm gonna ignore you guys. It's like I hate this character. Why do we have to go back and save him? Just let him die. And you're like, but it makes for a better future, and we literally have evidence of it. You're like, if we have to, I guess. He's the worst.
Yeah, and they don't really do a good job of de-aging him. Like, he doesn't look like he's, 30 years younger at that point, too. But it's, I mean, as a bald guy, it's kind of hard to, age him up, I suppose.
Yeah. Would he add more wrinkles? Yeah. But it's a drawing, so it just looks like shading.
Well, and that, raises questions. Does Magneto know of Xavier at this point? Because Xavier doesn't even really know he's a mutant, so they haven't met yet. So, why is he in the future fighting? We're not sure. How about a criticism? So final criticism, we'll end with a positive. We're going to get out of here. So I just think how short and rushed these 2 episodes feel, right? There's a couple lame episodes out there. Why they didn't make this a 3-parter? Explain a little bit more, take a little bit more time. It is a very bold story that they're trying to comprehend, right? And I can appreciate that things have to be rushed cuts. I'm just sad that they did that, right? Because I think there's lots of cool stuff here. And I think I would have wanted more. So that's kind of my criticism.
Mine is over these 2 stories, you could just literally have done a future and then a past. Yeah. So you could expanded the entire future and set it up more. So it has higher stakes, and then end it with them going back into the past, as opposed to them going back into the past, failing, and then redoing it again. And it's why did we redo it again? It's we could have just done a future episode and then have it end with them going back into the past and having to fix it. It's you could have fixed this, but you decided to waste half an episode and reuse animation because of budgeting constraints. And I get that, but that's my criticism.
Right. And then finally, a praise before we end. So I again, I've said it before, this is a very ambitious story to tell. They kind of swung to the fences. They did a really good job. It isn't perfect, right? In fact, it probably ranks second in the Bishop trilogy. I would say Days of Future Past, I think, is the most concise, clean story. Now, granted, Days of Future Past is a 2-comic episode, right? It wasn't a big expanded universe. It was very easy to tell that story in a short span, right? It's definitely better than Time Fugitives, even though I guess people liked Edgelord Cable. But I think without it, I'd rather take the weird Cyclops Angel guy over Cable because there's so many questions about him. But that's kind of my praise. Just I think they did a really good job with this. And it's kind of a shame. I always forget about this when I think X-Men. I think it's kind of the missing part of my childhood because I never really got this until I was older. So I just don't have that nostalgia. But I know I would have fallen in love and these would have been my favorite episodes as a kid. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't really have access to streaming services where we could rewatch these. I think, for me, this one's kind of the weakest. I don't know if it's really my real dislike of Professor X, because I've never liked him as a character. So when, a story is literally centered around him, and he has to act like a dumb dolt.
That's fair.
It just reinforces how much I dislike this character. So I think that's my
not a fan of Chuck. Not a fan of Chuck, eh?
Not a fan of him. But again, it's it's solid. It's a really tight story. I mean, even though I don't like that it's centered around Professor X, this is still a good episode. It's not until I think the couple last episodes of the season where the quality just falls off a cliff. I think this is all part of one really, really good run, and I love that they're trying to do more with Bishop, and they introduce all these cool characters, and they create this really neat world. I just it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the animated series as a whole, like Tyson just said, the last couple episodes or seasons kind of do fall apart, and there was supposed to be the 5th season is just kind of extra episodes that they had left over that they didn't get into the actual run, so it doesn't really make sense. And they just jump all over the place. So there's there was some creative issues. They were struggling a little bit at this point. So I think we're probably just no. So, but that's it. Now you know, video game that came out, episode that came out, and comics that came out at this time. Do we have some trivia? Really nothing happened. I was looking at what anything cool happened May 11th, 1959. No, not really. Trivia says Age of Apocalypse. It's obviously what it's inspired of. No, nothing. Okay, cool. There you go. So that is it. That ends this mini-series. We're doing movies. Did we talk about what movies we're doing?
I don't think we've announced it, but we discussed it offline when we're this lines up with something cool.
Well, obviously, we talked about it offline.
Yes, but I was just saying I don't think we've talked about it on podcast.
Yeah, Mick, don't you remember? We talked about it that one time. Like, it's written down in our notes. Tyson.
It's like, yeah, I know, but we talk about it when the mics were live?
That's what I was asking.
It's like, yeah.
All right. Wow. Okay, so we got, I think, a numbered show coming up, and then we've got a movie trilogy to look forward to this summer. I'll stay mum on the word just yet until it's kind of is announced, and go from there. So that's it. Happy to do this, and I think we're looking at a lot more X-Men. So I did try and I think our Game Gear one, we got like super carried away and talked way too much in the last episode, and like there was some good content that we were leaving that definitely like ties into the movies. So I tried to reserve my thoughts a little bit more on this one, because I was like, if we're talking about X-Men next year, I don't want to like give it all away.
Yeah, and I was trying to stay on topic and not tangent up so much. So because I could yammer on about there's this like the quick trivia about the canceled third game. It's like, there's all the
all good.
This is everything I know. Here you go. Let me just dump that.
Cool. So with that wraps us up. Numbered show coming out 2 weeks, and then go from there. So good stuff.
It's gonna be a fun summer.
Did we miss anything?
No, I think we're good to go.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.